Thanks for joining me again. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me again.
100%. This time we get to do it in person, so it'll be a whole lot more fun.
Absolutely.
For people that haven't, well, I actually should have looked at that. I just looked up how long ago our first interview was. And of course, oh wait, it's still here. What episode was that? 144. Go listen to the full story of all of everbowl, your journey, the early days, like what happened right when COVID hit, getting in the van, all that stuff. So that's the backstory. I'm really excited to dive in today about what's happened in the last 2 years, because obviously you guys have experienced explosive growth. But for people that may have not listened to 144, give us the spark notes, who you are, where you coming from, what are you doing now?
Sure, yeah, I'm Jeff Fenster. I call myself a serial entrepreneur, but I like to solve problems through starting companies. I run a QSR chain called Everbowl Craft Superfood, which is focused on acai bowls and helping everyone live the best version of themselves through an unevolved lifestyle. We have 60, as of this recording, we have 60 open locations around the country in 15 states, with 300 more coming over the next 4 years. We also own and run a construction fabrication company called We Build, where we not only build every everbowl, but we're also now building big chickens for Shaquille O'Neal and stretch zones and other third-party concepts. So pretty much anything that is a repeatable concept, like a franchise or owner-operated, where it's going to be the same repetitively, we scale and build those. And then I have a company called Unevolved Products, where we manufacture superfood products that we sell both on QVC and direct-to-consumer.
So cool. And we'll dive into the vertical integration. Like, that's one of the most fascinating parts to me of how you operate your businesses. But you like briefly glossed over the insane growth. So I want to make sure that we can uncover that. Dan was here talking yesterday, and he was saying every 6 days-ish, you guys are opening a new location. You mentioned there's another 300 coming. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, that's not projections, those are franchisees that have already invested and purchased a franchise.
Correct.
So
signed and paid for and deposits in.
And this is coming out of 2 years ago, 2.5, 3 years, I don't know how far it's been since then, but like everything shutting down, getting in your van to like deliver acai bowls to people's houses, and now every 6 days you're opening a new location. What is the last 2 years looked like in your life?
Whew, a lot of roller coaster, emotionally, physically. It's about making sure that you can always solve the problem, right? And understanding that as an entrepreneur, you're a problem solver. So for me, it's all about having the right tool and the right options and having those options. And so not knowing what tomorrow is going to bring, recognizing that on March 18th, 2020, we shut down 28 corporate stores and laid off 400 employees, to where we are today with thousands of employees across 60 stores in 15 states and a new store every 6 days. It was not, there was times where I thought we were going to be out of business. March 19th, if you would have asked me, I would have been like, well, it was a good run, but time to move on to something else. And just focusing on the day, really not getting too far ahead of myself and the company, and making sure as an organization we're thinking through what can we do today. As I like to, when I speak to entrepreneurship classes in college, I mentor a lot of them. One of the things I always tell them is the number one job of an entrepreneur is stay in business today. The number two job of an entrepreneur is stay in business tomorrow. And if you keep doing that, you're going to have a long, sustainable company. And so over the last 2 years, it's been a lot of going back to that, going back to the basics of recognizing, like, what do we need to do today to win the day? How do we win today? What is our goals today? What can we accomplish today? If we do that, tomorrow will deal with itself.
Yeah.
And through that process, fortunately, we planted some pretty good seeds that turned into pretty good trees, and we had a lot of opportunities to hit some big home runs. And as a result, I think what we're talking about today is the culmination of 2 years of hard work and dedication from the team, and really recognizing and leaning on our core values when it's the hardest. Those are what they're there for.
Mm-hmm. How have you, I love the concept of, okay, stay in business today, stay in business tomorrow. How do you make sure that as you're navigating in the micro, that you're staying in alignment with the macro? And to unpack that in a little not nerdy language, I guess making sure that the vision stays the same and you're staying on track for what you want to build long term, and not just being in the weeds all the time. How do you balance that?
Well, it's the team. Truthfully, it's having the right people around you and ensuring that the team of people that we have understand, as an analogy, a simpler example is we're in San Diego right now, we want to get to Hawaii. There's lots of ways you can take your boat from here to Hawaii, right? You can go straight west, you can go north and then west, you can go south and then west, you can avoid storms, you can go through the storms. The complication for a lot of organizations is they don't agree on where they're going, so they don't understand. We all agree we're going to Hawaii. I want to give you the freedom inside of your department, inside of your division, inside of your job description to choose which route you're going to take to get us to Hawaii. So long as we all agree we're getting to Hawaii, the macro takes care of itself. Where companies get awry and where even we organizationally have to regroup and rehone ourselves is, do we agree we're all going to Maui, or do you going to Kauai and I'm going to Maui? Because that's different, right? So as long as we all know we're going to Maui, you may think it's better to go north and avoid the storm, and I may think, hey, the storm's not that bad, I want to go right through it. That's okay, as long as we're both still working towards Miami and winning the day.
Yeah.
And so we put a lot of boats in the water and we aim towards Miami, or a fishing analogy, a lot of lines in the water trying to catch our fish. But as long as we're fishing for the same thing or heading for the same direction, the macro takes care of itself and it lets us really focus on the micro. What do we do today? What are we accomplishing today? And you know, I talk about win stacking, but that's part of win stacking, is let's win the day. You know, that's modus operandi one. Win the day, focus on today. Don't get too far in the future. Don't worry about yesterday, it's over. What are we accomplishing small term today? So if it's, hey, today we need to get our FDDs in order in this state because we want to start selling franchises in Minnesota, well then that's what we're doing today. We're not worried that we don't have a franchisee in Minnesota yet. That'll take care of itself. We have to accomplish the immediacy things, and when you do enough of that, it all works out.
Yeah. Unpack the win stacking piece for people that might not be familiar, because I love that. That's a lot of language that we use as well.
Yep.
But what does that mean for you?
So win stacking is literally legitimately winning the day. It's how do you build, and for us it comes from our core value of Kaizen, which is to get 1% better every day. So essentially, I want to run a marathon, but I'm out of shape and I'm sitting on my couch, and it's the analogy I use regularly. I can go outside and start running, and I'll probably do it today and be really sore tomorrow and quit. Or I might run today and run tomorrow and then quit. And you hear a lot of people falling off those exercise regimens. Well, win stacking would be simplifying it down to micro goals that you can do repetitively to where each event takes care of itself. How about today, put on your gym clothes and watch Netflix? That's winning today. Tomorrow, put on your gym clothes and walk or run to your mailbox. That's winning tomorrow. How about the next day, put on your gym clothes and walk or run to your next door neighbor's mailbox. And pick a new mailbox every single day until eventually you choose to go a few extra mailboxes because you're in shape. You have a consistent path of doing something, or you have a habit, right? It could take 21 or 28 days to build a habit depending on who you talk to. And so you're stacking yesterday's wins on top of each other to where the goal today, the improvement today, is micro. It's small, it's obtainable. It's one more mailbox. You went 403 mailboxes to do 404 tomorrow. Well, you did 403, so you know you can do that. It's one extra mailbox. It's a small step. And when you bite-size things down into small steps, it allows you to win the day, and that's called win stacking. You're stacking each of your previous wins on top of themselves, so the goal you're after isn't so big, isn't so out there that you feel like, I can't accomplish this, it's not gonna get done, you know, it may rain tomorrow. Well, who cares? You only have to go one more mailbox. You did it yesterday in the wind, so today you do it in the rain, right? And you feel good that you're like, I'm making progress. Because why do people quit, right? Why do people get off their path? Either they don't see progress, or they don't have the habit, or they don't believe they can really accomplish it. And so their goals are so great and grand, which is out of shape to a marathon. And I just use that because it's a good, easy to understand and identify analogy, which is, I haven't exercised in 5 years, now I want to run 26 miles. It's not going to happen. But I can guarantee you, you will run a marathon or accomplish a marathon. I can't tell you when, but I can guarantee you will if you win stack your way to do it. And the same thing applies in business, right? We may want to open an everbowl in New York. I don't know when we're going to do it, but we're going to do the small micro steps that have to get accomplished between here and doing it every day, and focus on those little 1% better gains and win stack our way to do it. And that's how you do extraordinary things. It's the ordinary. I'm an ordinary guy and we're an ordinary company. We're finding those extras, which is found in the win stacking, to become extraordinary. And that's how everybody can become extraordinary.
Yeah, I really appreciate you guys win stacking and opening in New York, because I would like to be able to have everbowl more frequently instead of just when I come out here or, Utah. But jokes aside, that it's so powerful, right? And I want to make sure to underline the versatility of what you're talking about, because a great book that talks about it is Mini Habits by Stephen Guys. I think it's Stephen Guys, right? So same exact concept, 1 push-up a day, walk to 1 further mailbox, right? For a lot of our clients, we've had clients that literally, they're like, the door volume, how many doors they're knocking is the metric that we're tracking, and they just can't get to the number that they know that they should. So we actually drop it all the way down to like 1 door a day.
Sure.
Right? And then all of a sudden they go from 2 deals a month to 8 deals a month, like that, by allegedly doing less volume. But it's because they're stacking the win, which leads to the momentum, it leads to the confidence building, which leads to the fulfillment, and all of these things move in the direction that we want. And it's never actually 1 door.
Correct.
Like, it was 1 door one day where they had a horrible time and they're like, F this, I'm going to Chipotle, but it was still a win because of the rules that they set.
Correct.
Right? I think that's so freaking cool.
And it allows everyone to win.
Yeah.
Right? Because a lot of times people get stuck in this idea that, oh, I don't have the skills that person has to accomplish it. And that's because you're seeing them 400 days of win stacking ahead of you.
Yeah.
You reverse engineer where they were when, at the same time you are, they were the same position.
Yep.
Whether it's door knocking, walking a mailbox, doing a push-up, making a cold call, working on that book and writing 1 sentence today. If I was going to teach, so like I'm in the process of finishing my book, and the idea of writing a book for me was like climbing Mount Everest.
Yeah.
But it started with write 1 sentence today. Don't know where in the book the sentence is going to go, but write 1 sentence today. Write 1 sentence tomorrow. Keep writing a sentence and eventually you have a book.
Yeah.
Might take you 2 years, but does that matter? You have a book.
Yeah.
Or whatever that goal is.
Yeah, and it's the last thing I want to underline before we move on is, like, it's so easy for us to paint this picture of the insignificance of the target, right? And also, don't misunderstand us, guys. We're not talking about throwing yourself a freaking surprise party because you did like 1 micro thing. Maybe that's how it starts, but like, it leads to so much more volume. It's a way to hack the system, and it's a way to build momentum towards whatever it is you're trying to build, whether that's in fitness, relationships, like business, doesn't matter. I love that that's a massive focus for you guys as well, and it makes sense seeing how you guys have built over the last couple of years.
Well, it also, and I think to help underline the point, it fills the void. In the dog days, right? When you're not seeing the progress you want, that's where people with good intentions and even good discipline fall off. Because not everyone has discipline issues. Not everyone says, well, I can't stick with what I want to stick to. That's not their problem. What their problem is they're writing this book, or they're trying to lose weight, or they're trying to write their business plan, or they're trying to raise money and they haven't raised a dime. But it gives them the activity to feel like they accomplished something, which keeps them going long enough so they achieve that goal, because sometimes the result is 1 day away. And the analogy, I like analogies, it's how I understand concepts. But it's like you plant a seed, and I plant an oak tree, or pick your plant. The roots grow down before it sprouts through the ground. And so often people dig their plant up thinking it's not growing because they don't see it sprout past the earth. Yeah. But the roots have already grown, and it's started to. It's just about to break the surface, and we quit because we don't see results. So win stacking allows us to feel and see results when there are no tangible results yet, because 1 more mailbox, 1 more push-up, 1 sentence, 1 more door is tangible. It is a result.
Yeah.
May not have yielded what we want yet, but it's another result, which is, when I worked for ADP, they had a model which was 50 cold calls a day. 50 cold calls a week would yield 5 appointments. 5 appointments would yield 2 deals. So they had this 55 and 2 model. Well, if 43 calls got you no appointments, guess what? Over the next 7, you're going to get 5. Math is math.
Yep.
So don't quit at 43, quit at 50, because 50 is where you had to get to, right? So in that same model, it gives you that tangible win, that piece that you need, that gives you the result to keep going.
Yeah, it makes the success inevitable.
Correct.
Right.
Part of a success formula.
Just continue. I love it. I love it. The roller coaster that you've been on, I think such accelerated growth over the last 2 years probably makes it a little more extreme, I guess you could say. Like, all of business tends to be a roller coaster. It's why you have books like The Entrepreneurial Roller Coaster and all these things. And sometimes that's life in general as well. But over the last, we've been talking a lot about how business is a personal development journey. And I'm curious, from your perspective, as you've been growing over these last 2 years specifically, what are some of the biggest hurdles that you've had to jump over and some of the biggest growth opportunities that you've experienced while, like, I don't want to use maybe riding the wave, but like almost like steering the ship on this incredible 2-year window that you've been on?
Well, that's a big question. There's no easy answer. It has been a wave, but the wave isn't just positive. I truly found most of my success over the last 2 years has been turning what I alleged to be a negative into a positive. Shutting down our everbowls on March 18th, 2020 was a massive negative, but it opened the door for franchising, which allowed us to go from 28 corporate locations to 350 franchise locations in 18 states. Mm-hmm. We wouldn't have done that corporately. Had COVID never occurred, I would be sitting here today with maybe 40, 50 stores corporately, and maybe 5 or 10 more in the pipe, because that's manageable for my team to accomplish, but we wouldn't have had 350. So that's turning a negative into a positive. Same thing with our WeBuild facility. The ability for us to understand that during supply chain hell and the fact that it was very hard to find people to work and no one could get construction done. So companies started reaching out to us and said, hey, can you build for us? We said yes. But a macro negative of supply chain crisis and hard to find people to work, and everyone is so stretched, 6 months from now we'll work on your job because we're so busy, created immense opportunity for us. Mm-hmm. And so this roller coaster has been realizing that every time we get hit in the face with a punch, something positive is coming on the other end of it. Mm-hmm. And I think this was Tim Grover who said this, so this is not my creation, I'm just repeating. And if it wasn't Tim, whoever said it, I'm sorry. But a new day always starts in pitch darkness. Midnight is always dark. So the new day starts when it's dark. Mm. And that's kind of been the roller coaster ride over the last couple of years, has just been, with so many, inflation gets super high, supply chain is crazy, COVID is crazy, regulation and politics have been crazy. Interest rates were free, money was free, and now it's tightening up. Just so many major events that could impact in a negative way your business, or displace what you thought was something that you were on. I've had the ability over the last couple of years, and it's been years of the making prior to that, to recognize that, okay, where's the positive? It's a new day, it's a new chapter. What can we do to turn this, cliche, this lemon into lemonade? Yeah. Or instead of lemonade, can we turn it into a lemonade empire? Mm. Right? And so that's just where I'm trying to do now in this kind of next phase, which is accelerate the positives into my favor. Make it to where it is formulaic. I believe success is a formula. I think everyone can be successful. I don't think it's as much art as I do think it is science. If you do the right things, 2 + 2 is 4. If you do the right things, you will be successful. People get caught up in the when, and it's not fast enough for them. That's a separate topic. But if success is your goal and you don't care if it's today or in 6 months or 6 years, you can achieve it. That's kind of how I've been trying to digest these last 2 years in this roller coaster, and recognizing that my ups can quickly be taken from me, yeah, and my downs can quickly turn into an up. Yeah. And if you ride the wave down, you get the momentum to carry you up. And a lot of times you go further and faster because the down, as steep as it may be, makes the climb that much easier. Mm-hmm.
I'm like getting the image of like those long jump skiers, and the ones that just like shoot forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like, because you're going so far down, yes, for so long. That's interesting. I
don't know if that was a good answer for you, but
that was really good. And there were a couple completely unrelated questions that popped into my head that I'll make sure to ask. But You mentioned this formula. Like, is this something that you feel you've hashed out at this point? You're just bringing it to life, or like, what do some of these formulas look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I figured out my success formula. I think it is something that others can accomplish as well. You know, it starts with your core values, because my core values and success is not necessarily what success means to you. Some people's success is, you know, a quiet place, a good book, and their partner sitting next to them. Mm-hmm. So for some, it's $1 billion. You know, so defining what success is the first part of a formula. You have to understand exactly what that is you're after. But if it's in business and what you're focused on, I think that formulaically, if you reverse engineer things down to its simplest form, success becomes inevitable. And it's win stacking. That it starts with win stacking. It's Kaizen, getting 1% better every day. Understanding that's the goal. So not to lose sight of the fact that if you get 1% better today, you win. And if you do it enough times, you win the game, right? And so there's a whole lot there. Like, we could spend probably 2 hours going through my personal success formula. You know, it leverages relationship capital and vertical integration, and how to get marketing for you know, how to leverage your marketing and exponentially grow your business that way, attracting the right team, building an organization around you that creates all those opportunities. But in the shorter time we have, I think that for listeners who are trying to understand what is a success formula, the best way to do it is ask, reach out, myself, others that maybe have done something similar to what you wanted to accomplish or have the idea, and we can obviously do a deep dive. But 2 is recognizing what have other companies already done that are in the space. So when I started everbowl, it's a restaurant, and I just talked about this on stage, I started listening to the quarterly reports from McDonald's, Chipotle, and Domino's, 3 public companies. And I was listening to what their CFO, their CEO, their CMOs were saying on a quarterly basis. They're all recorded. I can go back years and listen. And they have to tell you. They want you to invest in their company as a publicly traded company. They're telling you what they're working on. When COVID happened, Domino's and Chipotle were talking about making investments in their technology, in their app, in their, you know, the idea of ordering ahead. And that was where they believed the market was going. Okay. Well, they pay a lot of smart people to know what's happening, and I'm a small restaurant group at the time. Why don't I listen? So we invested in our app, we invested in our technology, we started to focus on similar things. We don't have the ability to do it to their scale, but again, go back to the win stacking, they're on much further ahead on their 1% better every day than me. Yeah. That's okay. I'm gonna grow to that. I don't need to be there tomorrow, right? And so success is a journey. And the destination for me isn't some arbitrary financial number. It's not a number of stores. You know, success has been a process of Kaizen, getting 1% better every day, building towards that and living my core values of being remarkable and change ready. Mm-hmm. You know, the other part of the success formula is the idea that you have to be change ready.
Tell me more about this change ready piece.
Yeah, so I think this is the one that gets a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs, they fall off. They found success, they found something that's working, they're gaining traction, they have momentum, things are working really well, and some major macro event happens. 2008 financial crisis, 2020 COVID, 2021 inflation, 2022 interest rates. You know, I have real estate, money's free, and now all of a sudden interest rates are 7-8%. What do I do? Yeah. And now real estate's falling. So being change ready and building your enterprise to understand that change is inevitable. And if you aren't change-ready mindset as an organization, you won't be prepared for when you have to adapt, pivot, and you know they say adapt or die. We all can think about the Blockbusters of the world. It's the greatest example of an organization that wasn't change-ready. Mm-hmm. Netflix is what they should have been. Blockbuster should have been the modern version of Netflix. They owned the movie rental space. They had all the eyeballs. If they would have just pivoted at that point and recognized the internet was a real thing and changed, we'd be talking about Blockbuster still. Yeah. They're gone. There's lots of examples of Blockbusters of the world, you know, in that space. And so that's the lesson, which is, for me, is one of my core values, which is you always have to pay attention to what's changing and be change ready and recognize that you will have to reinvent your business time and time and time again. And it might be every year, it might be every 5 years, it might be every 20 years. Hopefully it's 20 years if things go your way, but you don't get to make those choices, right? And to understand, like, in the real estate space, you know, the short-term rentals became a thing out of nowhere, right? That was a change-ready opportunity for someone who owned a lot of doors or was a big investor in real estate. You know, how do I pivot towards this new short-term rental or the remote work environment? How does that impact my business, right? Especially if you own a lot of real estate in New York City or San Francisco or these predominantly locations where a lot of businesses used to be and you had to be there to be in the office every day. All of a sudden, remote work became a possibility. What does that do? How does that impact your business? And how do you adapt?
Yeah. There's a great book called How the Mighty Fall by Jim Collins. It's in like one of the latter books in his Good to Great series. Yep. I finished it like 2 days ago, and this is exactly what it all talks about, right? Like those 5 stages of decline. And the way that I believe, and from what I've learned, and like I'm fairly new in this entrepreneur, like I've spent, 6 years building businesses. Like not a huge window of time, but I've had the opportunity to learn from some amazing people, and it just seems like the answer is exactly what you're talking about. Like understanding that shit will go wrong. It will hit the fan. Success is not sunshine and rainbows. Like I was talking with Danny Chaves earlier, like 97 out of 100 times you're gonna fail, but the 3 W's are what's gonna be all of the accolades, right? And just understanding that that's how it happens. And if you're not, to use a Jim Collins like pun here, but if you're not built to last, right, and you're not prepared for the darkness at midnight, then you won't last, and the success will not be inevitable, like we were talking about earlier.
And it's also the differentiator, turning negatives into positives, but a lot of times, and I don't root for negative situations because they hurt me too, but I know now with confidence that we're going to thrive and survive from them. Mm-hmm. And in a saturated market where everything's going up, take, real estate in 2021, you could buy any piece of real estate in the country and it made more money 6 months or a year later than what it was worth then. It didn't take skill at that point. Anyone could do it. So how do you differentiate yourself in a saturated market? Well, you do that actually in times of change and being able to adapt and pivot. That's where you can differentiate your company, yourself, and actually start to thrive because, I'm not an economist. I'm not going to tell you I know what's coming because I don't. I have my opinion. I think we're heading into a recession in 2023 if we're not already in one. I think there's a lot of headwinds in a lot of areas, and companies and businesses are going to have to reinvent themselves on how they've done things and how they do things. I think people are going to feel a lot of pain as interest rates have gone to a level that we haven't seen in a decade. Money isn't free. People are scared. Companies are laying people off, especially in the tech space, which is a good indicator that they are tightening their hatchets, which means others are going to have to do the same, and it's going to be a different environment. And so you also have a lot of this new world where people have moved out of the big cities into these more remote areas because they've been able to work remotely, and that may not sustain, which means they may have to move back. And the problem is they might be upside down on that real estate that they invested in somewhere else because the market has turned. So now they can't get out of it. How do they get back in? And you have a lot of these, the big states, California, New York, when you move out, you make money because it's cheaper elsewhere. It's hard to come back. Yeah. And there's just a lot of potential headwinds, especially these from an employee side, where employees have had the pick of the litter of, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. And it's been a employee-driven market as far as the employment side over the last 2 years, but I think it's going to turn back to the employer, which means employees and people are going to have to make personal sacrifices that they may or may not want to make. And I'm not rooting for any of these things. Again, this is just my opinion of what's coming. And so as a business leader of your own organization, as an entrepreneur, you better start thinking about those things now and have a plan and hope your plan doesn't come. Because the 7 Ps, prior planning prevents piss poor performance. Be ready. I would rather have 3 parachutes than none. Yeah. And I might go on an airplane and say, well, I'm not planning on jumping. I still would rather have a parachute than not. Totally. Because if you need it, that's the time to have it. So, that's the stuff about change ready and recognizing that if you kind of act with a mindset of I'm always able to change. I'm never going to say, well, no, this is how we do business. The internet's not for me. If you can go back in time and if you remember when the internet in the early 2000s, late 90s, you had a lot of older companies that the owners would be like, no, the internet's not for us. We're not. We did it our way for 30 years. That's how we're going to do it. They're not around anymore. Yep. Those businesses died. And it is true that you either adapt or die professionally in business as well as a person. You know, we in culture and society, we have to do the same thing. Things change, it's always changing. And so I try to stress to my kids, to my employees, to my friends, have a change-ready mindset. Accept the fact that change will have to come, whether you want it to or not. You may really like the way things are. That doesn't mean that they're going to stay there for you forever.
Yeah, it's kind of I'm hearing like Gary Vee in my head. It's like the market doesn't care. Like the market is the market, right? And I think to tie all of these themes from this conversation together, it's like if you stack those wins and you work intentionally, you become the person that's ready to take advantage of the situations when things go wrong, because there are opportunities there. Right? For you guys, it was like, we didn't talk about it today, but like the opportunity that commercial real estate, you were able to lock in tons of leases early on, right? And you found these opportunities as things were seemingly burning to the ground in these different markets and in the economy at the time, in the world at the time. And because you did that legwork, you were able to stay calm, you were able to do all of these things and bring it to life the way that is clearly working.
I mean, it is, and part of that is when you do the one more mailbox, the one more door, the one more sentence, the one more call, that daily habit of doing means that you have all these opportunities to notice the changing of the wind, right? So to use the mailbox analogy, I may run walk or run 50 mailboxes today and notice 47 mailboxes in, they're doing construction on a new development. And okay, so on tomorrow I see it happening and I'm watching it progress slowly. It's not like I was sitting on my couch and then one day I drove by, I didn't know they were building that development, it's already done. And I missed the opportunity to participate if real estate's my game or whatever, right? So the whole concept of doing enables you to be part of the process daily, and you should feel that wind and put your ear to the grindstone and paying attention. And you know, I go to Blockbuster because it's in my, you know, I worked at Blockbuster as a kid, and it's one of the greatest failures in my opinion of an organization that had 100% control of the market. I mean, Video Vault I think was the other one,
maybe
Video Vault, or you know, but Blockbuster was like legitimately
that was the only one we had around us. Yeah, it was huge.
It was huge. And
it was an experience too.
They could have bought Netflix. They should have been Netflix. They could have invented Netflix. And you look at a company like Google, which is now, you know, Alphabet, they bought YouTube. They're smart enough to recognize that they don't have to think or be the smartest person in the room. Other smart companies are going to pop up, acquire or adapt and change and grow.
100%. Jeff, for people, if they've been following at this point, they want to get connected, follow what you're doing, where do you hang out most on social? Where can people learn more about what you're doing? Plug away.
Sure, yeah. At Fenster Jeff on Instagram. LinkedIn, if you like some of the things, I have 2 free courses on LinkedIn Learning. So if you're a premium member, just go to LinkedIn Learning Premium. LinkedIn Learning as a premium member, it's free. If you're not and you want it for free, just hit me up and I'll send it to you. One's on relationship capital, which is one of the biggest tools for success I've ever used. And 2 is on marketing, no marketing money, no problem. So how to market your company without spending any money. So I recommend those 2 things if you want to learn more, just some things that I've used and learned over the years. I didn't create these things, I got taught these things, and I have great mentors. So, you know, it's about giving back to each other. We're a community of entrepreneurs. And Jeff at everbowl.com or connect at jefffenster.com is my email. I'd love to connect with all of you guys and keep the conversation going.
Love it. Guys, all of that will be linked in the show notes. Get connected, show some love. You know the deal. Jeff, last question I have for you.
Yeah.
I asked you this last time, so I'm going to tighten the window and just focus on the last couple of years. But, you know, going back to last time we connected, December of 2020, obviously you guys were on a meteoric rise then. It has only gotten faster, only accelerated from then. So this last 2 years of this roller coaster with this insane growth, a new store every 6 months, 300 coming in the next 4 years, 18 different states, 50 plus stores already. This entire window of these last 2 years, I don't even know how many days that is, but this growth that you've been on, what's the biggest lesson that you've learned that has yielded the most results and had the biggest impact on your life and in your business?
Not to piggyback on, I mean, we kind of hit most of the themes, you know, these lessons that I've learned, but over the last 2 years, I think it's just to reiterate the power of surrounding yourself with great people. I'm fortunate enough to have a rock star team of people that I get to take on the day with every day. It starts with my family, obviously, and the support I get at home, but then beyond that, at the office and part of the everbowl family, the team, we keep attracting great leaders, and these leaders challenge me daily and push the company and come up with new ideas, and it's awesome because I show up, and when, it's really how 2 + 2 becomes 5, and it's compound interest. Because we all agree and share the same core values and love what we do, they're pushing the envelope and I'm pushing the envelope, and I don't realize that while I may move the needle 1% today, they're moving the needle 4% today, and together we're 5%. So even though we're 2 people, we're moving it that much more. And they're taking my ideas and I'm taking their ideas, and that whole collaboration over the last 2 years has allowed this roller coaster ride to be not only more enjoyable, but our peaks to be even higher. And so the biggest lesson I would say is, lose the ego, be the dumbest guy in the room or the girl in the room, and that's what I want to be, and surround yourself with people who are brighter and smarter than you. And it was one of the biggest pieces of humble pie I ever had to eat in my professional career. Luckily, I learned it early when I had my payroll company, and we kept hiring great people and they kept leaving, and I kept wondering why they were leaving, and then finally I said, I'm saying they a lot, but I'm the common denominator. Mm-hmm. And what I realized I was doing was I was telling them how to do their job. I was telling them how they had to act. And then I immediately switched. I changed my perspective that moment, and ever since then, when I hire somebody, I don't tell them how to do their job. I tell them where we're going, what we're doing. If they want to be part of that team and they share our core values, fantastic. But I expect you to figure out how to get us to Maui, because I'm going to take us this way, but in your role, you take us whichever way you think. As long as we agree we're going to Maui, that's all I care about. And giving them the freedom to be them, to freedom to be the expert that I hired them to be, and giving them the freedom to have that authenticity that they wanted to bring to the team and inject their DNA into the organization. Not only do they like their job better and like to be part of the team better because they're getting to be who they want to be, but two, they take ownership of it now. It's their project. It's not, my dumb boss or my dumb partner or my dumb guy is telling me I have to do this way, and I know he's wrong, he just won't listen to me. That was the old me back when I first started and I had the big ego, because I felt like I had to be the driver. I couldn't give away, I couldn't let someone else be the brains. Mm-hmm. And then I realized, hey, they win, I win. Yeah. Right? And that's what we want to do, and that's part of the success formula. So over the last 2 years, it's just been about expanding the team and bringing on incredible rock stars, and that lesson further supports just that growth and what we're able to accomplish together. And I'm fortunate and humble enough to work with such great people. So if I had one big thing, that's it. I'm so excited for that, and to continue to expand the team and see where we're going to be over the next 2 years.
Love it. Yeah. Jeff, thanks for joining me.
Dude, thank you.
100%.
Absolutely.